star 439 hash. Star 439 hash. Make sure you're picking option 2 for TV3. It'll cost you 5 cities to play, and you too could be walking away this morning with 1,000 Ghana cedis going straight onto your mobile device. It is star 439 hash. Make sure you're playing as many times as possible. You know the drill. If you don't play, you don't win. So please make sure you get in the game. Star 439 hash. Well, this morning we've tabled some very pertinent issues that concern you, and they also concern myself and my panelists this morning. We're talking about Ghana's new 1 cedi per litre fuel levy. Well, it's exploded into national controversy. Now, what started as a government fix for energy sector debts is now facing fierce pushback. Now, the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies calls the rollout a military fiat. You've got the opposition NPP threatening a series of actions, including protests, and civil society warning of rising costs. Now, this morning on The Big Issue, we go beyond the tax itself. How should government work with stakeholders on big fiscal moves? Who really pays the price? And what does this uproar reveal about decision-making in Ghana today? My guests and I will be exploring all of these themes this morning, and I'll introduce them to you just now. I've got Eduji Kujo Tamaklo. He's the acting CEO of the National Petroleum Authority. He joins us this morning. We also have Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin, political strategist, and also Andrew Apia Dankwa, spokesperson, Movement for Change, also a private legal practitioner. We'll also be joined in due course via Zoom by Dr. Riverson Upon. He's the CEO and industry coordinator of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, and they had some very stern words for government this week. But let me start off with lawyer Eduji this morning. And Eduji, good morning. Good to see you. Long time no see.
Yes, my lady, good morning. Good morning to my very worthy co-panelists. And good morning to our cherished viewers. I've been away for a while. This morning, I just need to do this. There's a big sister of mine. Today happens to be her 50th birthday.
Wow.
Former ambassador to the Czech Republic, Ambassador Zita Sabah. Today happens to be her 50th birthday, and I just want to use this platform to wish her well. I think she has been on this platform as well. She's one of our formidable communicators as well. So happy birthday.
Certainly.
I think, yes, that said, once again, the person you just introduced, Dr. Riverson.
Yes, he'll be joining us.
Very well. And then the chairman, Kumi, who happens to be the chair of COMAC. Wherever they are, I want to greet them. The reason why I need to do this is yesterday, there was almost a problem. And thanks to the intervention of these two gentlemen, Dr. Riverson Upon and the chairman of COMAC, Chairman Kumi, we've been able to agree on a roadmap. The timely intervention of the finance minister, the Honorable Kesolato Forson Doctor, and my Honorable Minister and the GRA boss were able to come up with a roadmap for the implementation of this particular 1 Ghana cedi on every liter of petroleum product. What this has done is that constructive engagement has helped to avert what would have become an industry problem. And that is why I want to single out these individuals, particularly the oil marketing companies, for agreeing with government that instead of the implementation starting today, we'll stagger it or postpone it to the 16th. That's exactly a week today. And the reason is quite simple. You know, the oil marketing companies, when they go to buy their fuel, they also buy fuel to sell to us. What they usually do is to post bonds. They post bonds. By posting bond, you have to go to a bank or even an insurance company and pick up a bond. And the whole thing is that you are assuring government that upon finishing, the tax component and others, you will not be in default.
Okay.
So it is cash and carry. You have to pay before you are permitted to lift. So the concern they raised was that because the implementation is sudden, right, from last week, the law itself was passed, I think on the, I'll just find out, one of the Thursdays. Then the next time you are asking us to do
In fact, they used harsher words. You say sudden.
Yes,
They said
I know.
it's smacked off.
You know, I've read it.
Okay.
I don't want to go into.
I'll project it on the screen in due
military, in all of those. You know, I know my friend Riverson speaks well, so I can appreciate when he puts out a press statement and the details. But the short of it all is, we realize that yes, of course, they have raised very legitimate concerns. So once the matter came to the GRA commissioner and the finance minister, he felt that the concerns they have raised perfect. And that is why he said, look, in the circumstance, and if you read the statement carefully, COMAC is really not against the one city. It is the implementation, because to them, it is going to bring additional financial burden to them. And in the circumstance, they felt that it appeared more like a fiat. Let's just do it. And so the finance minister's intervention to allow the whole thing to move to next week will allow them to put their finances in place. And for me, this is welcoming. What it has done is that it has made my work a bit more easier for me at NPA, because the implementation is at my end, the downstream. And this would have created a problem. But thankfully, the finance minister saw wisdom in the concern they've raised and has agreed. And I've noticed that COMAC has also issued a statement to that effect. I just want to thank them for that magnanimity, in averting a potential industrial action. Because what during the conversation, like today, it would have been difficult for anybody to lift products, and that would have created serious problem, in the whole country. Energy drives everything. Yeah. And once they say no, we are going to, it would have created a huge, and thank God that we've been able to raise this issue.
Ediji, thank you for that foundation.
Yep.
Then let's take it back a few steps then. Why was the decision made to implement the levy with such urgency and what many are describing as limited consultation with key stakeholders?
I always say that we always have the benefit of learning from the experiences of life every day. If things don't happen the way they do, you may not have the opportunity of appreciating possible concerns. However, there were a few things that had put government to make a choice between the devil and then the deep blue sea. And I think that we need to possibly roll the scale a bit back. So you have a situation where in 2015, December, President John Dramani Mahama took arguably one of the most riskiest political decisions ever by any politician. Basically the passage of ESLA. Because prior to that, the bulk oil distributors and others have had an issue with government. So if you recall, there was an instance where it was difficult to lift petroleum products because of what they described then as the legacy debts. So Minister Setekwe and other stakeholders together, and that time, the legacy debts were even affecting the banks as well. So I remember Stanbic Bank boss, now Chief, and Danny, and Co came on board. And that resulted in the passage of ESLA, the Energy Sector Levies Act. Now, the whole idea was that this Energy Sector Levies Act, once received, will help us retire completely the legacy debts. And for banks, once the banks can see that every month you receive something, they are better off, because then it does not become non-performing. At least there are performances with those loans. Now, fast forward, after the passage of it, the MPP comes to power. Now decides to incorporate what became known as ESLA PLC. Now, when they incorporated ESLA PLC, the debt at that time was $2.5 billion, with a view that we'll be able to do that payment. Only for government to incorporate ESLA PLC and now go for bonds. The expectation was that if you go for $6 billion in terms of bond, using ESLA receivables as collateral, you use that money to do what? To retire the debt completely. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So, with respect, for 8 years, the ESLA receivables could not retire the legacy debts. Even new debt started accumulating. Then comes the John Mahama administration, Ababio. Now with the second coming of President Mahama, if you recall, exactly on the 7th of January after he was sworn in, 2 days later, we started having power problems. You remember that? Then suddenly, our friends in the MPP started blaming President Mahama for bringing back doomsday. It was quite curious. That is a man who just took over barely 2 days, having been sworn in. We have a power crisis on our hands. President Mahama again had to put a team together to see what we can do to keep the lights on. Question, how do we keep the lights on? We needed to go and buy liquid fuel, either diesel, light crude, to help keep the lights on. Now, with respect, these things don't come free of charge. They are quite expensive, particularly diesel. So you have a situation where from January to date, just one company, we owe them in excess of $200 million. That's so much. You can't keep accumulating that debt. So what do we do? And that is where I say we are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Look, the budgeted amount of light crude or diesel or liquid fuel that we need for the whole year to keep the lights on is $1.1 billion. That's how much we need to keep the lights on. Would President Mahama take a decision that, oh, I have only 4 years mandate, I don't care, let me accumulate the debts and go home? But as responsible father as he is, together with the finance minister and the governor of Bank of Ghana, do you know what they decided to do first? There are two critical components of fuel pricing in Ghana: the forest side and what we usually call the FOB side. Now, when we look at it, the impacts, we realize that the forest pact is huge. So what the minister decided to do first, that's Minister Atoforsen, decided to do first, is to work on the forest side first by ensuring the stability or appreciation of the Ghana cedi. What did we do with the gold board and all those other interventions? Today we have seen the Ghana cedi move from 15 cedis to almost 10.2. This morning I checked from the Bank of Ghana interbank rates, and it is doing 10.3, 10.2 from 15 cedis. So what has happened now is a significant gain, almost 40% reduction in terms of the forest rates. Now, what's the impact on fuel price? The cascading impact. Now, you notice that as at January 2025, when you go to the pump, a liter of, say, diesel was doing close to 16 cedis. 16 cedis. Now, because of the forex rate, that had come down to almost 10.77 from 16. Even less, for the sake of argument, even say 15. So from 15, we have come down to 10.7, and in some places, 11 cedis per liter.
Right.
So for you and I, the consumer of petroleum product, we have made almost 4 cedi gain on every liter. So what the finance minister decided to do was to work on the forex side. Having brought that stability and conscious of the fact that we will sustain it for a long time, came the conversation about the 1 cedi. Now, because the consumer is making 4 cedi gain, what government had decided, and with a lot of apology, is to say that you are making 4 cedi gain. Give us 1 out of the 4. Government is not asking for 2. Government is not asking for 3. Out of the 4 cedi gain, government is saying that please, 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 I am caught up in a situation, but I need to get the lights off. You remember, our friends in the MPP used to tease HE that we are going to have 24-hour doomsday. You remember?
That one I didn't hear.
Oh, no. In fact, it was the MPP immediately after President Mahama took on. Then they started calling it 24-hour doomsday. President Mahama doesn't want to leave a legacy of doomsday. Never. So what he has done is simple. That Ghanaians, out of the 4 cedi gain, by reason of the appreciation of the cedi, which is a government intervention. Remember that the CDJ didn't appreciate it. There had been very methodical intervention from government. Having done that...
Although, Edith, let me slight tackle you a little bit here.
Please go ahead.
Because dissenters will say that this is a fluke, that you had no real hand in stabilizing the Ghana cedi. And for that reason, they say that the volatility that they think is inevitable could come back and bite government in the behind. Because there are assurance...
What are the concerns? The Ghana cedi just didn't appreciate it. There had been direct methodical intervention from government.
Eduji, is this sustainable?
Yes. Look, at this point, even the fear is that we may even get to single digit. We'll get to single digits. Do you know why? The reason is that, first of all, those who used to speculate on it, now with the way things are going, persons who had kept dollars under their bed and others, now fear of losing the value. So even now, they are even now being forced to make some gain now before it gets to 8 or 9. So this thing is going to be very sustainable for a long time to come. These are pragmatic government policies that have been put in place. It just didn't, unlike, like in the past you say, magical, you have a magic wand, then you touch. No, this is policy mix that has resulted in this. But back to the issue. So basically what government is saying, which we have pleaded with Ghanaians to do, is that we need to keep the lights on. And in doing so, the 4 cedis, which is the gain on every liter, please, 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 keep 3 and give government 1. Now, the interesting part is that the 1 cedi on it is not even going to lead to a reduction, an increase in the price of petroleum products. And listen, I was part of this process. We had to run simulations with 50 pesos, 80 pesos, and 1 cedi. So it is not a decision that was just taken.
So you considered other figures?
Oh, different scenarios. If you do 50 pesos, what would the numbers look like? If you do 80 pesos, how would the numbers look like? If you do 1 cedi, how would the numbers look like? And I remember the finance minister, I could see the pain in his eyes. Because he kept saying that, look, Eduji, this year I need $1 billion, over $1 billion to buy liquid fuel to keep the lights on. If I give all this $1 billion, I'll struggle with free SHS. I'll struggle with other social interventions. However, when the tariff was approved, guess what? Liquid fuel was not part of the tariff arrangement. I don't know if you get the point.
So that government was absorbing that cost.
Absolutely.
So this wasn't borne by the people. Government was actually paying for the fuel.
But you see, the question is, who ultimately ends up paying for that? You see, usually I want to avoid, because we are in government, I want to avoid the situation of, what happened in the past, but sometimes you are forced to get involved. Guess what? In the past, VRA used to be in charge of the purchase of liquid fuel for power generation. The MPP administration came and said, no, ECG should now take charge of that responsibility. The process of that purchase is not known. When I say it's not known, we get to buy it. How the procurement process is not known. So we have seen consistent accumulation also in that place. So the question was, if you do 1 cedi, assuming that annually we are doing 5 billion liters of white products, that gives us 5 billion for the whole year. Now, this is a situation where government is actually implementing this half year. So what it means is that even with the 1 cedi, you are not able to do the 1 billion cedis you need for liquid the purchase of liquid fuel. So even with the 1 cedi, there will still be shortfall. So the issues, the 1 cedi, even if we get that 1 cedi, we'll not be able to raise the $1 billion for the purchase of liquid fuel to keep the lights on. And so the government was put in a situation where, what do you do? And I've always been expecting my friends on the other side to provide what possibly would have been the alternative. Unfortunately, and I've heard Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia try to say, oh, we're here, a Sunsin, levy, and what have you. I can understand him. When you want to lead again, with this kind, you want to engage in this. It's fair. Politics is fair.
Lady, 1 minute more for me, please.
So I want to say, and I want to wrap up by doing this, by saying that it is a very painful decision that had to be made. Why? President Mahama will feel so good. I've reduced, I've gotten the CD appreciated. I've gotten the price of petroleum products down. That's a feel-good thing.
And we were enjoying it.
Absolutely. And look, the enjoyment affected me. I was excited about it.
Lawyer, did you somebody who said the party has been cut short?
No. What we have done is that it's a full cake, right? It's a full cake. That full cake was coming to you, arguably. We have only said, it is 4. Give us 1 and keep 3.
All right, Lawyer.
And the interesting part is that even with the 1 cedi addition on every liter, you will not get to the price at which, let me say, President Nana-Addo left the price of petroleum product. No, we'll never get there. So the net effect is actually a further reduction.
Certainly. Lawyer DG, I'll come back to you on this one specifically because even where you say, we've made some gains and you just want a little bit of it, fellow Ghanaians have some rebuttal so that why they think they really should not be a part of this strategy. They say that there are many deep-rooted systemic issues which must be looked at. Lawyer Danko,
and I agree perfectly with them on that score.
Right.
Look, one of the things that we have said is that, listen, can we collectively ensure that the accounting processes of these levies are a bit more transparent in terms of what we use it for.
All right,
and the conversation is to ring fence this one, particularly for this. And we'll open the books for everybody to see.
Certainly. Lord Ankwa, you didn't bring the GTP with you today. I call it the Yellow Bible. Yeah. Because I know that the Movement for Change, you have some long-term, or shall I say medium to long-term suggestions as far as the energy sector is concerned, even thinking about bringing IPPs closer to the action, if you will, in terms of maybe even making them shareholders, so that we can maybe tackle one aspect that always seems to hang around our neck. What do you make then of this short-term decision or short-term strategy that government has put in place with this 1 litre, 1 Ghana cedi fuel levy?
So let me wish you a good morning. First time being anchored by you. We will all have a very good discussion. Always a pleasure sharing this platform with EduG and my own prof here. And good morning to your lovely viewers. But if there's one issue that personally really vexed me to the core, there is issue pertaining to energy crisis, because there's one issue that I felt that the government has not dealt well with us at all. And I know EduG attempted that, given a historical answer. I think he was really generous to the leadership of His Excellency Nana Addo. You know, when we came this morning, my prof here was asking me about the indemnity, the presidential indemnity in our constitution, and whether or not we should not be looking seriously at removing it. I think he was asking in reference to why we are not holding Nana Addo accountable. Now, why am I saying this? So, they say that the devil is always in the detail, and was asking about accountability. First of all, we need to account for how much ESLA gave us over the last 8 years. Why we, after collecting, but after the first 4 years, close to $4 billion, we still have debt. We need to ask questions what those monies were used for. Because about just 8 billion Ghana cedis was used to collateralize the ESLA bonds. What happened to the rest of the monies? Because in the first 4 years, they collected close to about 17 billion cedis. What happened to those monies? Also, we need to ask questions about why government failed to implement the actions recommended in the energy sector recovery program. Because when you're analyzing the energy issue, so first of all, we know that it's a financial crisis. But also, we also know that there's a cause to why there's debt in the first place. And so ESLA attempted to deal with the debts. But then government went ahead to do energy sector recovery program, which attempted to look at the fundamental issues that created the debts in the first place. And having come out with the ESLA recovery program report, that said that we were having the financial issues because of some technical issues, because of some commercial issues, because of issues pertaining to the P, that is a tick or P agreements. Mm-hmm. And understanding that the energy sector recovery program was done in 2018, after 6 years. How do we find ourselves in a situation where government will find itself in between the devil and the deep blue sea? And sadly, one problem the people of Ghana are complaining is because we do not even understand what, first of all, how much the 1 cedi is going to give us. There's no end in sight, because if at the end of the day it's supposed to aid in dealing with some debts, you understand, then I think in the law or in the act that proposed that there should be an end game. Government should be able to tell us that we anticipate that we are going to collect this levy for like four years, and beyond the 4 years, we think we'll have enough money to pay the debt, and that these are our strategy in dealing with the underlying causes of those programs, as in terms of the commercial losses, in terms of the technical losses. Because we need, one, the state-owned enterprises that are within the electricity supply chain, so grid cool, need serious capital injection, because one of the reasons why we have technical losses is because of the obsolete nature of some of the machines there. You understand? Right. So for me, my personal view is that where we are right now, we don't have a choice but to swallow this bitter pill. Really. You call it a bitter pill? Yeah, it's a really bitter pill. It's a really, really bitter pill. We don't, because like Edwin said, if government needs to find $1 billion to purchase fuel, where is the money going to come from? Are we going to resist? 1.1 billion dollars. Are we going to protest and resist and then be saddled with doing so? And then the cascading impact of doing so. You understand? So for me, I think there should be a short-term plan, which is this one CD, but it must be done well. I think government didn't do well in terms of the communication. Because and I want to say this, compare this to a parent who is giving your baby a bitter pill to cure a disease. A lot of work really had to be done to get the buy-in of the people, especially when this is a democracy and not a monarchy. I think government did do well there. Also, I feel that to get the buy-in of the people, government needs to find a way of telling us strategies they've put in place to deal with the underlying problems that lead to these unnecessary deaths that kill or threaten to kill the energy sector. Government needs to ASAP tell us what their strategies are. Are they going to rely on the strategies proposed in the energy sector recovery program, or they have their own strategies to deal with the underlying issues that really are the reasons why our energy sector seems to be involved in all these crazy debts? Government needs to tell us. And thirdly, there must be accountability. There must be serious accountability with those who led our energy sector for the past 8 years. Because how can you justify why you raise all those monies with ESLA? Like I'm saying, about 3.5 billion. The debt was about 2-something billion dollars. And then you use 8 billion Ghana cedis. So at that time, close to less than 2 billion for some ESLA bonds, as in to refinance or to create more debt for us. And then you claim that you use some of the monies for infrastructure, develop roads. As in, where are the roads, if I may ask? They claim that they use it for some lightning projects. Where are the lights? They claim that they use it to subsidize pre-mix fuel. You understand? So there needs to be serious accountability. Because that's the only way you can get the buy-in of the people. You understand? In some of these very onerous decisions that government may have to take to salvage the problems we are facing. So yes, it's not enough for the opposition, as in the MPP, because we are all in opposition. But it's not enough for the MPP to be trying to throw dust in the eyes of people.
You won't be partnering along to go with these demonstrations?
The MPP led.
Yes, we were told last week that there will be a series of actions, including demonstrations to kick against this levy. The Movement for Change, you will not be partnering with the NPP?
They are the reasons why. But if there's anything they should be doing, they should be wearing sackcloth.
Sackcloth?
Yes, put ashes on their head, go around the country and beg us and ask for forgiveness. I'm telling you, we are not angry enough, because the situation we find ourselves in right now is as a consequence of, I wouldn't say negligence, because it was very deliberate. And I'm saying it's very deliberate because where you undertake an energy sector recovery program that seemingly has the answers to our problems, and you fail to implement those programs, and we find ourselves in this situation, and instead of you apologizing, you want to demonstrate against what? You see, we can't be doing the usual politics. Because the usual politics we've been doing is killing our country.
Lord Dankwa, let me ask you then if any of the points raised by the NPP resonate with you. And I think at least you agree that the lack of in-depth consultation caused some discomfort. You saw how COMAC responded to that letter for implementation. And I think Lawyer Eduji is right when he says that COMAC doesn't appear to have a major gripe with the levy itself, but the rush for implementation. So I can agree with that. But others have talked about consultation. GPRTU, in fact, tomorrow is a day to watch because they say that they're going to be going on a strike themselves. They were told to bring down transport fares by some 15%, only a week later to be told about an increment as far as this levy is concerned.
So the major issue is not the consultation. The major issue is the need, whether or not the need for that one CD levy in the first place.
And you say it's a bitter pill we have to swallow.
Yeah, we will need to swallow. So they shouldn't divert attention with, and we all agree, government didn't do enough consultation, their communication wasn't too good. But in my opinion, that is not the major issue. The major issue is why are we in a situation after having had ESLA for close to 10 years, after having had the benefit of the recommendations in the energy sector recovery program for 8 years, why do we have or find ourselves in a situation where we do not have a choice but to take off on ourselves this one Ghana cedis levy? So Ghanaians should be eye-opened. They shouldn't allow the NPP once again to divert the issues. You understand? Because when you go into the issues, then the NPP, rather than having the moral, the cojones to be attempting a demonstration, they should rather be putting on sackcloth and put ashes on their heads and beg. And also, Ghanaians must push this government for proper accountability to be held against these people. That anybody who has played any part criminally in this criminal enterprise, that has led us to where we are now.
Which criminal enterprise, Lawyer Dankwa?
So let's go. An audit should be done on it. Because the numbers do not make sense. You create an act that says that we are collecting monies for this purpose. Yeah, you understand? Now you collect the monies. You have enough monies to retire the debt. And yet you go on a certain agenda that has caused a further deepening of the debt. Two, you, with the aid of World Bank, and I think an energy sector recovery program, the program comes out with a number of recommendations. And you fundamentally fail to implement those, recommendations to the point where we are ensured that the issues, the ECG issues, where the minority themselves is saying that the extent of the corruption in the ECG is. So for me, serious audits needs to be done. People should be held accountable. The principles of probity and accountability must be made to work, or we should see those principles being applied here. Because those are the things that government can do to get the buy-in of the people. You understand? Because, like I'm saying, it's a bitter pill we all need to swallow. But government needs to do a massive
audit.
Even what's called communication drive to get people to understand what the real issues are, and they shouldn't hold back. I realized that my brother here held back in terms of beyond talking about ESLA. He didn't talk about the misapplication of the ESLA funds and how those misapplications have put us in the situation we are in now. We talk about energy, and that even affects more. The energy sector recovery program, that one sparks of clear lack of commitment. Because it's totally different where you don't know the solutions to a problem, but where you know the solutions. And for 6 years, you have the executive power. You sleep and watch and allow this country to be plunged into a situation where our transformation agenda can never be as successful. And what do? When you have a leader, and we may disagree with the lack of consultation and all,
right,
but he's had the moral courage to take a decision which may make him very unpopular for the benefit of the country. And what you will say what? Because you have a right to demonstrate, you want to demonstrate. No problem. I'm saying that
you say they should go ahead.
But because they have a right to, I can't stop them. But I'm saying if they had any sense of patriotism, if they love this country, what they should be doing instead is to put on sackcloth, put ashes on their head, and go around begging kindness, asking for forgiveness. And thirdly, and others should be done, and anybody who is found culpable should be held accountable, seriously accountable. That's the only way in which you can get and then lastly, the government should take serious steps to also start finding solutions to tackle the underlying reasons why we have the deaths in the first place. So that at least we find ourselves in a situation where, let's say in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, we would have survived this dire situation with flying colors. And just to add lastly, and so in the light of that, I think it is necessary that they tell us that, listen, this one city thing maybe will last for a year.
So you join the calls that there should be a sunset clause, so we know when all of this will come to an end.
Because we can't keep on paying till perpetuity, because we know the debt. And if beyond the debt, they take critical, the serious steps to deal with the underlying issues, then I think that like the energy sector recovery program said, they said that by 2023 we'll find ourselves in a situation where this crisis will be done with, where the financial situation in the energy sector will be viable, as in the sense that the cost of producing the energy will be less than the revenue they generate. They were able to predict. I'm sure they can predict. At least there's some sunset. So we know that we are going to pay this for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But when you leave it ajar, then there's a high chance, or an argument could be made that there's an intention of also misapplying those funds.
Are you speaking from a place of trauma? A place of, we've seen this before, so we don't want to see it again. Certainly. Lord Danko, I do have one more question for you. But just before you come, let me just acknowledge the presence of Dr. Riverson Opong, CEO and Industry Coordinator, Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies. Doc, hello, good morning. All right, Doc, can you unmute for us, please?
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. I was just saying good morning. I'll be coming to you very shortly.
Good morning.
All right, certainly. Eddie, you wanted to interject?
Just a quick hint. He had raised a very legitimate concern on the issue of the sunset clause. What do we do? Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky. If you recall, when we passed ESLA in 2015, it was just for 5 years.
That's right.
Now, the 5 year didn't see President Mahama. It came when the MPP. By which time, they had incorporated ESLA PLC and had taken bonds on the back of the receivables, and now extended ESLA to 2035. Excuse my language, making nonsense of the whole sunset clause.
So actually, it should have ended in 2021.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we went for the bonds on the back of the receivables. That then extended the tenor of those bonds to 2035. And so if you kick in the sunset clause, it is going to impact on it. And so when we're putting this together, the question was, should you put sunset clause immediately? Or what you do is that government has a plan of putting the trouble gas, the phase 2, so that once we do that, we can harvest gas. If we have gas, we'll not use liquid fuel. And so that with gas coming on stream in the next 2 to 3 years, we are sure that these numbers wouldn't be in need of $1 billion annually to purchase liquid fuel. Now, the challenge was that if you had done that 50%, what we call liquid fuel, into the tariff arrangement, it was going to lead to 50% increase in electricity bills.
In fact, you were told it's 68%. I was listening to Richmond Roxon, and he's the spokesperson. Let me get that designation right. Roxon Richmond, he's a spokesperson, Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. Because during the week as well, I'd heard from the finance minister or maybe the energy minister saying 50%. He says actually it would have to go up by 68%.
Possibly factoring other issues into it. But I'm saying that liquid fuel alone, included in the tariff arrangement, like the minister said, would have resulted in 50%
All right,
increase
so that
in
extra
electricity
18% would
have
come from
from the other.
That makes sense.
And you see, the interesting thing is that, my lady, if you generate 100 Ghana cedi worth of power, right from the beginning, 30 cedis is already lost in distribution and line losses alone. So you are left with only 70. Meanwhile, you bought this from the IPPs. And you know, one thing that has helped us is that because of the appreciation of the cedi, the tariffs are in dollars because you see kilowatt cents, you understand. Now, because of the appreciation, it's also helping in terms of gain on the part of ECG. Because then ECG will need to mobilize more Ghana cedis to buy less dollars. Now, you need less cedis in order to get the same dollar to pay for it. It will shock you, my lady, that as we speak today, the IPPs alone, we owe them almost $2 billion. How are we going to do this? Car Power, AXA, all of them are threatening to shut down. Sometimes I wonder, with respect, what happened in 8 years? What seriously happened in 8 years? We could, look, all these things were resolvable. If, for instance, ESLA was dedicated, look, I still want one courageous MPP person to tell me the reason for ESLA bonds.
In fact, Lawyer Eduji, are you taking Lawyer Dankwa's advice this morning? He says that in your initial submissions, it seems as though you were holding back. You didn't want to put too much. And that's why I wanted to ask Lawyer Dankwa, are you giving Eduji good advice? Will the people of Ghana not see that as merely the NDC trying to justify what is happening?
No.
Will the Ghanaian people not say that we want results?
Beginning, I said I don't want the blame game.
Yes, that's why I want to ask Lawyer Dankwa, why is giving you this advice?
Backman and a good one enjoy your. Just send me a text. Now, and he's asking something very legitimate. You will recall that when His Excellency John Mama won the elections, the MP kept on asking. We thought they were joking. We wonder how you are going to keep the lights on.
You remember?
We wonder how you are going to keep the lights on.
I recall.
Yeah. So these people, having left about 2.something billion debts with the IPPs, having misapplied the ESLA funds, knowing that there was no resources to even purchase fuel. You see, we need to move from the politics of, because I'm in opposition, I wish the field so that I can have the chance of coming to. Because the reason why we do politics, whether you're in opposition, whether you are in government, is to see the Ghana agenda being pushed. You understand? So, this politics of, let me put certain traps, because that's exactly what the MVP did. They've branded His Excellency John Mahama of being Mr. Doomsaw. So they created, and when they knew clearly that they were going to, well, they said they knew around April last year that they were going to lose. You understand? So they essentially put them in a situation where, in their view, it was almost impossible to keep.
Dankwa, this is a very sinister agenda that you're alluding to. Lawyer Eduji, you also agree with this?
Hold on. No. You are buying liquid fuel and keeping the money, the debt. At the time you knew you were going to lose an election, clearly you knew that somebody will come and take it. And then you do a 360 degree.
All right, gentlemen.
So
let me bring Docky to the conversation.
So the agenda, I'm not sinister, but the agenda was very sinister. The agenda was very sinister. At the end of the day, we all need, unless we have the energy, then our transformation agenda won't be successful. So it's not about me advising energy. I'm not sure I'm saying anything he does not already know. But all I'm saying is that it's not enough just collecting monies to, in the short term, deal with them.
Accountability is a must.
No, as in, people must be asked the necessary questions. And then, but also most critically, they need to quickly tell us what strategies they've put in place to ensure that the underlying factors that led to those debts are being dealt with. And he gave an example that because of the obsolete nature of of the machines. Just transmitting energy from Gridco to ECG alone will cost about 30% of the energies being transmitted being lost.
Absolutely.
So,
right,
Eduji, I beg you, people should ASAP come and tell us what strategies you have put in place to ensure that
Very well.
the underlying factors that cause these deaths are dealt with.
Certainly, and I know that there are many other Ghanaians who agree with that. Doc, let me come to you, and thank you so much for your patience. You've listened to these two young gentlemen since we started. But what does the controversy over this fuel levy reveal about policy making and also stakeholder engagement in Ghana when it comes to governance? From where you sit, seeing how this has traveled since last Wednesday or Thursday or so.
All right. So good work by my co-panelists. The analysis have been deep, and I think that we need to sort of understand where the OMCs are coming from, as well as also understanding, the positions, or the implications of the levy, to consumers and other things. You see, since Wednesday or so, I've been following the debates around this issue. And when you check the letter that COMAC actually, brought out yesterday, one of the key things that they were talking about was the fact that, already they are saddled with about 8 levies, amounting to about 22%, on ex-pump prices, right? And when the 9th one, which is the ESSDRL, is introduced, what it means is that the percentage in terms of the ex-pump prices is going to go around 26%. So I was asking myself, what does it mean? What are the implications, to this whole debate? And so my search led me to 3 things, all right, 3 key things that I think that maybe EDG may want to, take notes and probably inform his further, discussions on the matter.
Okay.
The first one has to do with the ex-refinery pricing, which is made up of the forex. It's made up of the ex-depot pricing, and then the BDC margins, right? Then the second one has to do with, taxes and levies, and the third one has to do with the OMC profit margins. Now, so when you put these 3 together, you get 100%. All right. Now, prior to the introduction of the energy sector levy, right, last week, they were doing 73 for ex-refinery. They were doing 22 for taxes. And then OMC profits was 5%. All right. So what it means is that ex-refinery and taxes alone gives you 95%. And the profitability margins of the OMCs was just 5%. And what it means is that their salaries and all other operational costs is in that 5%. You can imagine the struggles they are making there. Now, with the introduction of the ESSDRL, what it means is that now levies have gone to 26%, plus 73 gives you 99. So their profit margins has now reduced to what, 1%. That is a concern. That has become the concern of the OMCs. Now, so the question now is that, would the OMCs and COMAC sit? So that's why they were talking about a threat to the industry. In the letter, we were talking about threat to the industry. It's about their survival. It's about their profit margins. All right. And so the question is, will they be ready to sacrifice, for the gains of the ECG? Right. And that is where the problem is. Obviously, there's going to be a transfer You understand?
So from the OMCs to the everyday consumer like myself and yourself.
Exactly. So the transfer will come, definitely. Because they cannot survive under the 1%. So what it means is that whatever increment that there is, obviously it will go to the consumer, the Ghanaian consumer. And we know that MPA has that formula. So all that the OMCs and Kumba could do is that this is our cost, this is our profit margins. So they input it into the formula, and then it comes out just like that.
So, Doc, what you're saying is that for now, it's 1 liter or 1 Ghana cedi per liter. But really, once the OMCs also slap their operational costs on there, I'm hearing 1.2, for example. We shouldn't just be looking at it as 1 cedi, 1 liter.
No.
We should also factor in that the OMCs have to add a bit on there.
Yes, because it is actually affecting their margins. So that's why I came up with these calculations. All right. And so what it means is that once the 1% will not be enough for their sustainability, the industry's performance, they will find a way of surviving. And that means that they have to transfer that 4% loss to the consumer. And that makes sense. That makes sense, isn't it? Okay. Now, I feel that, you see, the moment it is introduced, so you see the drivers' union also coming up with a concern. So that is where, you see, the engagement, should have been broadened, to listen to all other stakeholders, so that at least we can arrive at a middle ground. Nobody can say that this tax is not important. It is. And as lawyer said, it is a bitter pill. We need to swallow.
You agree with that? We just
no, I agree with it.
Swallow it.
Exactly. You see, but we need to understand, the underlying problems that it will equally bring. From a political angle, the trust of the NDC, government in power now that they are enjoying, and even in recent past, I think about 2 weeks ago, there was a discussion to reduce lorry fares as a result of the gains, that we are making in terms of the dollar and then the reduction in fuel prices, which, drivers were reluctant, but at least government was able to get them to do that, all right? But what it means is that if the introduction comes again without proper, discussions and all that, what it means is that drivers may want to go back, and that is why they have threatened to go on strike. See, so I feel that we need to, beyond the understanding that the tax is a necessary evil, we still must have further consultations by understanding the depth of the problems it will bring, all right? So we can avert it immediately. I feel that, when, how do you call it? Let's again do some calculations here.
Certainly.
I mean, when Eduji was talking, he was talking about the 1 cedi, 4 cedis, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 4 cedis on a liter.
That's the gain.
The gain.
By reason of the forest.
Exactly. So what it means is that, I'm going by Eduji's analysis, 1 cedi for government, 3 cedis for
the consumer.
Technically, if 3 cedis is going to the consumer, then consumers in the next pricing window are expected to equally gain.
Yes.
You understand?
There'll be further gain.
There should be further gain.
So there'll be further reduction.
Further.
Yes. So that is where, you see, the complications are.
How so?
Now,
Doc?
yes. So what it means is that the 4 cedis, government is taking 1 cedi, and it will be left with 3 cedis.
Right.
Currently, we are buying fuel at 12 petrol at 12 cedis, 52 pesos.
Yes.
Isn't it?
In some places it's 10.
I'm using the Guel.
Okay.
The Guel one. All right. So what it means is that then Guel should now give consumers 3 cedis reduction.
So it should come down to 9 cedis.
Doc, I'm trying to follow you. Forgive me for my slowness.
Yes, so 4 cedis.
Okay.
You have 4 cedis. Okay. And we are saying that give 1 cedi to every
government, I retain 3.
Retain 3
right.
cedis. Now, let's assume that 4 cedis, you could have probably used it in purchasing fuel. All right. Currently, the fuel you are buying is what?
As an additional liters.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
You understand that?
I get you.
So what it means is that technically, all right, you are supposed to be having a reduction per the current price that you are buying the fuel.
Right.
Okay. But I did some simulation, all right, and just saying that, okay, assuming that we are dividing that 3 cedis by, 4 liters or 4.5 liters. That is 1 gallon. Then it means that we would have about 0.6 on a liter.
Okay.
So, all right. So probably, even if it is not the 3 cedis, okay, that is for a gallon of fuel. Then we expect that for every liter, we are getting 0.6 pesos reduction, which means that you now must go and then take away, the 12 cedis is per gallon, right?
No, liter.
No,
Liter.
Per
Okay.
liter.
So you are taking 0.6 out of the 12.52. You understand?
Okay.
So what it means is that there should be some marginal gain, all right, in pesos, marginal gain. Okay. But this one has not been communicated.
Okay.
Right? And the calculation is because the calculation has not been probably done. Okay, so which means that if these calculations are done, then probably the OMCs may themselves get to know that even if you have to increase it, it shouldn't be that much.
Okay. A lot of numbers and figures for me to wrap my head around, but Doc, I
You are
am
not- you are
following
not a mathematician.
Not at all. Not at all. I don't pretend to be one.
Oh, no, but
at all.
what it means is that assuming that for every liter we are saving 6 pesos. All right?
Right.
Yes. If you are saving 6 pesos, what it means is that the OMCs should factor that 6 pesos in there.
Okay.
In,
Well, at
in
least,
their pricing.
At least Dr. Pong says when
I
we're done, we
know-
can
I
get
know-
it straight from the horse's own mouth.
Yes, so I know that probably he will go into a
That's
deeper,
right.
I was actually having some, consultations and trying to wrap up my head with some of these things to see where the complications are, for the letter that was written, and also the drivers' union saying that, we are probably likely to increase the price, or government should withdraw the 1 cedi, or we go on strike. So I was trying to, and I came up with some of these understanding. All right.
Okay.
Now, lawyer raised an important question with regards to the longevity of the levy.
Right.
That one, for me, I'll add my voice, is very important. Because in Ghana, we have realized that anytime that taxes are introduced, they don't go away. They stay. But you see, the politicians should be smart to know that these are things that will take the livelihood of the people. And the moment, living conditions begin to worsen, they'll call for your head. So the sins of our forefathers have always been our curse. Politicians. And let me do this, I'm saying it. All right.
Advice well taken.
Yes. Whatever took the NDC to opposition in 2012, was it
2016?
was the same thing that took the MPP to opposition.
They say, "Unimu
Shena. You understand? And so when we check our journey so far, from 1992, 96 election, 2000 election upwards, the same thing follow. So I become a bit fascinated trying to understand that Is the politician not learning? Or they seem to be learning, but reluctant to change? Then it means that this country is heading for danger. Because if our leaders know the truth and they don't want to work on the truth, then it's a problem.
Doc, you're sounding like a traumatized Ghanaian.
In fact, today I decided to do advocacy for the Ghanaian consumer. All right? And probably if you see a change in my voice, it's because of the Ghanaian consumer. And I feel that politicians should be up and doing. You see, they seem to be playing games among themselves, but the Ghanaian end up suffering.
You say the politicians are playing a game with us?
With themselves, but we end up suffering.
So that, for example, we're told about the systemic issues that have existed for many, many years, the recovery rates, we talk about operational inefficiencies, procurement issues, talk about corruption, but it's
and
you
they
and I,
are not doing anything to solve it. Have you realized that? Lawyer was talking about it, these operational inefficiencies. I mean, Lawyer DG started with 100% and said that 30 is lost through, you know, distribution,
all those losses, you know.
The world has come far with technology, isn't it?
Right.
So why do you rely on the 20th or the 16th century technology?
That's what you see we're still doing.
That is what is happening.
Look.
You see, when you stand by any, what's the name? That big electricity wires, is it the pylon or something?
The pylons.
When we stand close to it, you hear the sound. That is energy lost.
That's just money
It's
going in the wind.
You bought from the IPPDs, you know, at the cost of 100 cedis. And we are losing
30 cedis.
30 cedis.
On distribution.
Operational inefficiencies. Lack of monitoring. Another 30 gone. Another 30 gone. How much is left? 40.
Doc, thank you.
And so, is it not the issue that we will always pile up debt going forward? And why should ECG and its managers, why should governments and ECG and its managers sit and look at it and always transfer costs to the poor consumer on the street who is struggling to earn a living? Does it make sense?
Doc, questions that certainly need answers. I will be coming back to you. Thank you so much for your submission. But let's head over to Zoom now and speak with Dr. Reverson Opong. Again, he's the CEO and Industry Coordinator, Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies. Doc, a pleasure to have you on The Big Issue. Hope you're doing well.
Good morning, and I'm doing very well. How are you too?
I am doing great. Now, we understand that June 16th has been agreed as the dates in which implementation of this new fuel levy will be collected. In fact, I say new, but Lawyer DG, this is not a new tax. I want to clarify that as well.
Yes, it's actually an increase.
An increase on an existing tax.
It used to be 0.49 pesos. So now it will become 1.49.
0.49, certainly.
So you notice that it's an amendment of an existing legislation.
Absolutely. I thought I'd make that clear because a lot of you have been asking if this is a new levy. It exists, but this is an amendment adding on some more money to that existing levy. Now, Doc, back to you on this one. What were the main operational and legal concerns that led COMAC to initially reject that immediate implementation of this amended fuel levy?
Thank you so much, and thanks to the Chief Officer of MP for clarifying the same call we also receive every day concerning this. I think the ambiguity around the whole energy sector shortfall and debt levy is a consolidation of 4 existing levies into one. So yes, the energy debt recovery levy is 49 pesos. But if you add the energy sector recovery levy, the price stabilization and the sanitation and pollution levy of 20, 16, and 10 respectively, you get 95. So adding one, that's where you get the 195, as the letter or the amendments of the act also says. I want to make two quick remarks before I get to where the operational issues are.
Certainly.
The chamber, first of all, is a non-political chamber. This is a chamber that is run by more than 245 oil marketing companies who are independent, and they are private men, business people. Worst case scenario is only Goa, which has government stake in it. So we don't speak for any political ambition, please. We have received calls from all sorts of political people. We don't do that. We are a chamber, we speak for an industry. And the industry is that important that it contributes more than 9% of the GDP of the country. And that is why the stakeholder engagement was very important, proud to where we are today. Certainly, amending operations over the weekend, or let me say a long weekend, where we celebrate our brothers, we celebrate with our brothers, Muslim, was not the right time to implement any law. We understand it's a law, and the president has issued or has signed over it, and who are we to say no? But our members who are doing cash and carry, who need to pay the tax upfront, and this is where the problem is, because I had some NEC guys fighting me on social media, insulting me anyway, that when the fuel price went to 17, where were we? But remember, we left from 7 to 17. So it's not as if it's from 17 coming down. And when fuel price in terms of commodity increases, it's different from tax increase, because tax increase means that most of my members need to pay upfront. And if you're paying upfront, it means that you need to secure funds or money from the banks. And there was no way GCB or EcoBank or any bank would give us money on Sunday or Saturday. And then that is one. We already in a pricing window that would make it difficult and operationally impossible to just amend the pricing regime. All that we asked for was minimum days for us to transfer into another pricing window, where even things better in terms of where the flat price will be or how strong the city would be. And people will not even, or the consumer will not even be affected so much with the one city. So all that we're pleading was that. So just like Edwin also mentioned, this is nothing new. ESLA exists. And if you look at last year numbers alone, ESLA contributed no less than 9.5 billion Ghana cedis into the sector, I mean, to the country. So if I ask where this money is, I mean, be it last year, this year, whatever, it is legit. Okay, it's not that I'm asking the government too much. What has made do with this? Because when you look at the price stabilization and recovery levy, it was something that we were hoping when prices were hitting 17, that the government would bring it to now, so that the ordinary Ghanaian will benefit from it, because that is the essence of that particular levy. That when prices hikes up, the government will subsidize the pump prices for ordinary Ghanaian to feel it. And I had a call from my own people, I mean, that let's leave that talk, the government will come to us. And that was February. So receiving a slash of $1, 1 cedi in the name that fuel prices are coming down was a bit unfair to the sector. Let them put that way. But at the same time, if you told the Quen and having worked with the ESR, because I was part of the modelers with the World Bank 2020 that came up with a cash waterfall under the Energy Sector Recovery Program, and we brought together the quarterly review of the PRC levies. And this brings me to that question of 60% or 50 to 60% increase in tariff. But again, that is someone's job. I don't go in there. I'm very enlightened to the tariff setting and the economics of it. So if 40% is gas to power, 30% is hydro. How much fuel do we need that will warrant that high tariff increase? And I think PRC needs to show us the figures.
Right.
We really know that there's huge debt. There's a huge debt that I think 3 years ago, myself and Dr. Nida Asante were engaged with many social media platforms, and we forecast the impact of the accumulation of debt. You'll be surprised that even the inter SOE debt that is between Ghana Gas, GMPC, VRA, GRICO is huge, which is not even part of what you hear today.
Indeed.
The intersectional debt alone is huge. So we agree that there's an issue, and therefore our sector has been selected to support. And again, when we see that we are not against it, but it was just not possible to implement it today.
Certainly, and thank you for clarifying that for us, Doc. So you say, as a chamber, you're not against the levy. You understand that it's a necessary evil, as has been described by many Ghanaians. For you, your main issue was the short notice for which you were given to implement this particular amended levy. In fact, you had some very strong words for government. Maybe that's why you're getting these calls, as you said at the beginning of the conversation, asking about where it is that you're leaning. And I can understand that these questions will come, given the sort of political climate that we do have. But has
let me say that my brother, Dr. Riverson, is an all-rounded energy person. But his actual field is in the upstream. Now he's in the downstream and everywhere. He's a huge, like in terms of expertise.
Right.
And what he brings on board. And like he pointed out, I don't read politics in what he's doing. He's leading a very powerful union, the oil marketing companies. And they have raised a very legitimate concern. Thankfully, the finance minister appreciated the concern that they have raised and has agreed that we postpone the implementation.
So that's why Doc says that June 16, you agree with that timeline, Doc?
Yes, we do. And believe me or not, this is going to help us in a long way. And I think it's even going to help the government, believe me, because if we were supposed to increase this today, prices would have hiked up to 14 cities. And I don't think that's what the government is looking for. It's a necessary evil, but let's all support each other and have stakeholder engagement. And like Doc also mentioned on the program, it's as if he was just reading my mind. Everything he said is exactly what I was going to say.
You're talking about your profit margins.
Everything. I mean, everything he said, and I have the same figures here. In front of me, I have a lot of Excel sheets that I was going to go through.
So in fact, Doc has made your work easy.
You've gotten an advocate.
Sorry?
I said you've gotten an advocate this morning.
No, very well. I've never met him. I don't know him. But I'm sitting here and I ask your people, like, who is that guy? And I think he's really making a very powerful sentiment there. And you see, it turns out that the oil marketing companies are indirectly working for the government. If you're taking 26% of export price, and I struggle to get 4%, after all my investments, the stuff I'm paying, all the haulage up and down, all the risk, I mean, it's not fair. You know, it's a deregulated market. Is the government going to call me again that I should tell my members to reduce their pump prices? Nobody can do that going forward. And for me, if you see pump price going as high as 15 or 17 next week, nobody should call me. We cannot talk to my members anymore. You understand? So we need to be careful and have an open dialogue. Our matter is not that hard. I mean, in tree, you know, just someone here that don't want to engage us. And like I said, we have already raised 9 billion for the government from ESLA alone for last year. Not talk about the other levies we have, which amounts to almost 3 cities, 25 pesos from diesel alone, and 3 cities, 27 pesos for petrol, aside other levies we pay. And for me, I've also stated today to my members that nobody should increase any fuel today in the name that he's making money this week against next week.
Right.
Okay, so we are very conscious about it, and we have raised 3 proposals to the government, and we want to make sure that we don't impose the full fees or the full cost of this 1 cedi to the ordinary Ghanaian. And that being said, our engagement already is in full wave. We have 1 week to make amendments where they need to be, and I believe that things will fall in place. And like I said already, by Thursday or Friday, we'll have how the next. We're going to see how the next outlook will be, and if flat goes down, or if the city does well in our forecasting, we might not even feel this impact. But if it doesn't, COMAC and its members are going to surely, give back pass on the cost of this levy to the ordinary Ghanaian to pay.
Most certainly. Doc, thank you so much for your time and for also shedding some more light on this
I personally want to thank him and the COMAC chairman for reaching out.
Did you know how I read this?
Look, I was personally on call with him.
Your Monday could have been very different.
Yes. In fact, but for their intervention and cooperation, this morning I won't be here. Masube Shiroff. But I just want to thank Dr. Riverson and Chairman Kumi for the understanding, and also the finance minister for the magnanimity. I mean, ordinarily, taxes would have been raised this week. Now, to defer it and to allow industry to fit in the implementation process properly is commendable, highly commendable. And I want to thank Dr. Riverson and the industry.
The point is this, you know, what I said and what he's saying. He said we've done a lot of simulations, right? I think that it goes beyond the 1 cedi, which people feel that, oh, this is insignificant.
No, I think nobody really has, from at least my communication today, we are not saying that whatever had been played, the 1 cedi is insignificant. What we are saying is that there's a conversation to share burden. Now, in sharing that burden, there is a 4 cedi markup. That 4 cedi, government is saying that keep 3 and give me 1, not the reverse. We are not, so we will not get to the point where we say that it's insignificant, because you see some of these things.
I'm not referring to government. I'm referring to, you know, other communicators.
No. We have been very clear, and government's position is that even if it is 10 pesewas, the impact will be felt by the ordinary person. However, we are just saying that we've gotten to a position where we needed to take a necessary but painful decision. We will not get to the point where we will describe the increment as insignificant, not at all. Because the more you purchase, the more the impact, among other things. But like you pointed, you've raised another dimension to the conversation, which is for me very important. What will be the impact? But for every tax, you are the professor. For every tax, you have what is called the incidence of the tax.
Certainly.
The incidence of the tax in this case is that we are trying to, as much as possible, minimize the impact on both ends, both consumers, the other stakeholder, that is all marketing companies, among others. So there's something I needed to add. You see, if you look at the pricing, there's something maybe you've not adverted your mind. The OMCs are buying the product from the BDCs. Right. Now, when the BDCs also bring their imported product, they have what they call their supplier's premium. You understand? So the supplier's premium that the BDCs sell the product also is another matter that we are also having that conversation quietly with them. So that if the supplier's premium can be watered down a bit.
So you see, when I was...
It will also impact on all the others. So the other conversation that you may not be aware, but we are having quietly.
So in fact, you're working behind the scenes to mitigate what the OMCs are going through.
Yes, even from the OMC and the BDC point.
So when I was giving the breakdown on the ex-refinery, I mentioned the BDCs.
Exactly.
So what it means is that with their, the S refinery pricing, okay, there are 3 key variables in there. So it's 1 + 1 + 1, okay, or A + B + C. Now, when you are able to hold one constant, what it means is that it is the other 2 variables that will operate. If you're able to hold 2 other variables constant, you are left with just 1 variable to operate. So that means a reduction in the S refinery pricing, which means that if you get the S refinery pricing to, come down, from 73 to, let's say, 70 or 68, then that is a rare gain. You understand? So I've considered all of them.
So as we speak, so for instance, we're already dealing with the importers of LPG, and we've already agreed on a roadmap. The next one is diesel and petrol. And what we are trying to do is that if we can significantly, like you pointed out, the FOB pricing and the impact on the depreciation of the city. Now we are only the appreciation of the city. Yeah. Now all the things that we have done so far is on the side of the appreciation of the city and the gains. Now we are also looking at within the industry itself, what can we do, for instance, to mitigate or reduce the supplier's premium? Usually the supplier's premium come about because, you are paying for demurrage costs, because you are not able to discharge your product, a lot of other factors, even vessel to bring, availability of vessel, many other issues. We are within the industry at the MPA level, seeing how we can even further reduce these numbers. So that if we reduce these numbers, both ends will now see a reduction, which will lead to further reduction of petroleum
Certainly.
products.
Eduji, thank you for that. Sometimes it gets...
Last one. That is why it is important that,
and Doc, in just 1 minute for me, so I can read that comment, please.
Just an advice that, you see, the forest should come down further. All right. When the forest comes down further, it is a gain on the ex-refinery.
Certainly. I heard the majority leader says we are practicing forcenomics. And the forcenomics is to also bring down the forex. So we watch this space very eagerly and keenly as well. Read out some of your messages, and then we can move on from this conversation. Now, this one says that this levy will ensure fair sharing and make sure that everybody comes on board and will have our burdens lifted. However, we want to see people being prosecuted to appease Ghanaians. Also, Nana Kwame Isaac says, the question still remains, will the managers of ECG still be at post? A number of you also said you weren't too able to follow along with Doc's calculations. Of course, this video is immortalized on our social media. Go back and watch it. Take your pen and paper out and then get a free lesson there from Doc. Ghana Save says 1 Ghana cedi on a litre of petrol cannot be the same as 1% levy. Yao Febri says the best levy this government could have implemented is to continue being prudent and continue prudent measures by the Bank of Ghana so that the government can appreciate or stabilize the Ghana cedi. The question is, will the government take away this levy when the Ghana cedi depreciates and the price of petroleum hikes in the world market? Many of you have echoed that same question. Deti New Love says, we have oil, gold, and cocoa in Ghana. How much is their processing companies? Imagine the jobs in this value chain. Kwejo Fiagbe says government should simply consult more because Ghanaians are willing to support. All right. George Kobe also says NDC has the economic clues. All right. I've redacted a portion of this particular message, but you go on to say in 2022, a litre was sold at 17 cedis, 99 pesos. Now it is selling at 11 cedis, 39 pesos. You say still JDM is champion. Goy says every tax introduced will affect some people more than others. Crystal Jones also has this to say, Ghanaians will never be satisfied. We're our own worst enemies. We voted these people into power and watched them flip the economy in the first 4 years, and let them lead again. However, they totally plundered us and left us with polluted water and deforested lands. The new government is trying its best, and we will not even give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, another one from Yao says, the NPP government was paying debt at the energy sector. Then the cost of unused power generated by the take-or-pay power plant agreement by the NDC government also accumulated and added on to the burden. I think I've seen another one of that comment leaning or leading in that direction. Desi New Love also says, we have oil in Ghana. How much is an oil refinery? Oil importation must stop now. All right, gentlemen, it's been quite the morning. I just want to give each of us just one minute to wrap up.
One of the propaganda that has been shut down but gets repeated everywhere is how much we spent on take or pay, or what you call the excess capacity charges.
In fact, a few comments were reflecting that.
I remember vividly my brother Sohini asked the then finance minister to give a breakdown of how much had been spent on what were then claimed to be the take or pay. Unfortunately, the claim was that we're doing $1 billion annually. It turned out to be false. Please, let's get and tell the people of this country just the bare truth. Nothing more. We are saddled with debts, regardless of NDC, MPP. Look, my lady, if you go home and you don't have lights, you can imagine the discomfort. The heat. I
have to prepare for work,
you have to prepare for work. Very simple thing. Businesses and others, we need to have the lights off. And President John Dramani Mahama is determined to leave a lasting legacy of keeping the lights off. We have to take a tough decision. And we'll plead with the good people of this country to bear with us in this difficult and trying movement.
Thank you so much. And thank you also to Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin, political strategist this morning. He had us taking our pens and papers out to do some much-needed calculation. Do rewatch this and get involved. Let me say a very big thank you also to Andrew Apia Dankwa, private legal practitioner, also spokesperson for the Movement for Change. He didn't bring his yellow Bible. I'm sure next week he will bring it so we can learn a thing or two from what the GTP has to say. We're also joined by Dr. Riverson Opong, CEO and industry coordinator, Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, and of course, lawyer Edu G. Tamaklo, CEO, National Petroleum Authority, having a much better Monday than what was forecasted for him. When you read that letter, I'm sure his heart was beating, but it's a better Monday this morning. And thank you to all of you who sent through your comments, your thoughts, and your opinions on our social media. Do keep it coming. Yes, big congratulations going out to Johnny Hughes, Celebrity Impact Awards, and he took that one for radio. The scorecard is scorecarding, as the young ones say. We're still cashing out this morning. It is our 439 hash. But have you ever walked into a store for just one item and left with a full cart? I know us women were very guilty of that. It happens. But smart shopping starts with a budget. At West Hills Mall, planning your spend goes a long way. With a wide variety of stores from groceries and fashion to electronics, you can compare, choose, and still stay within your budget. It's not just about spending less, it's about spending right. So before you head out, just like you saw Doc doing, take out your pen and your paper, set your limits, and write a list, and make sure you're shopping where your budget stretches further. This is a tidbit from the West Hills Mall. They say shop smart and shop wise. We go on a quick break. When we come back, there's more right here on New Day.